I'd like to introduce my little filly, Emmie. A couple years ago, Jeremy and I decided we wanted to breed our mares and raise up a couple of babies. We planned to chart their progress on this YouTube deal, and all along the way, well then, Music, his baby, wound up breaking an elbow, and that kind of threw a wrench in the whole thing for my lust for recording. We spent almost 3 months keeping him in a splint so that it would heal properly. And I guess that would have made for good recording material, but I just didn't have it in me to do that. We were not sure he was ever going to be sound, and so I don't know who wants to talk about that. But anyway, also my little Emmie here kind of went on the back burner, and I didn't video her much. But I've done all the work with her up until now. Well, Jeremy helped me out some with her feet, and she was, of course, gentle and halter broke when she came to me as a weanling. So she turned 2 years old in June, and this is her first ride. I guess I'll go ahead and say it. Avoid the anticipation. She's pretty sensitive. And so I worked real hard to get her okay with the energy of moving and jumping and having to step up on the side of her without her wanting to blow off sideways. So I had gotten to a point where I wanted to start stepping up on the side of her. I'd worked a lot on the fence over her and her switching eyes and stuff, but I'm not near as agile and used to doing this sort of thing as Jeremy is. He does this every day, and also he doesn't get rattled about the adrenaline. I'll be honest, even videoing this from the sidelines, I was holding my breath. Well, not quite at this point, but here pretty soon. And anyway, I just handed her, I mean, of course, he's been around when I've worked her, and he's seen her grow up also, but I just handed her to him, and I says, pretend I'm another client bringing a horse to training. Check out my homework. See where I'm at. I knew what I wanted and what I thought needed to be done, which is this here, stepping up on the side of her. But I was pretty sure she was dang close to her first ride. She was feeling pretty confident with stuff. But see this, especially on the right-hand side, holy
Good
cow.
girl,
I would not have been that swift about it and that smooth. I can barely haul my ass up on the left side most days. And she's tall. I'm sure you can tell. She's tall. And of course, I could have gotten on from the fence or this or that, but I wanted to make sure I covered all the holes that I had found. Anyway, I was correct in my calculations that she was pretty close to being ridden, but I just sat there and shut up, and I just let him check it out, see where he thought she was. Because I know he'll do anything I ask him to, and I didn't want to influence where I thought she was and what I thought she was ready for. And I don't know why this iMovie editor cuts off his doggone head half the time. I didn't mean to do that. I'll have to find a better way to edit these things. But so she was pretty stiff on the right yesterday. Not pretty stiff, but there was a tiny bit of stiffness in the right where I felt like her rib cage was kind of tight. And it was fine. Obviously, it wasn't a problem. And see, right here, what he's asking for is he's asking her to be soft and round her head. And when she gets troubled, that way he can talk her out of trouble if he needs to, instead of her just getting tight and leaving the scene. But she was having a little bit of trouble balancing him on the side. And she didn't have any problem seeing him with both eyes, but she was having trouble balancing him. On the left, she did fine to be able to step up under herself with him on the side and the awkwardness, but right here she was really struggling with it. And even though Jeremy wanted me to be able to do the first ride myself if I wanted to, I didn't feel like this was any sort of contest, and I'm just not into the adrenaline of first rides. I mean, I'm asking her to be calm and be accepting of things I'm doing. And then I'm up there like an orangutan holding my breath, so nervous because I'm just excited about it. So when he said, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but a lot of times riding on the side of them like this is okay and it's no problem. It's not a big deal. And see, she even got okay. He doesn't really want her doing so much backwards motion. He wants her to be able to move forward and smoothly round. So I stopped the video and we sat down and talked for a second. And he said, I feel like she's ready for me to just get on instead of having to balance me on the side. It's going to cause more trouble. Where some horses, it's better, and could give them the time to sort that out. And even though it's awkward for them, if they're going to blow with you on the side, they're surely going to blow with you on top of them. But with her, he said, it's just going to be better to just go ahead and get on and let her learn to balance me. And he says, I think she's going to be okay. And I agreed, but I didn't want to be the one to suggest it. So, and I said, I don't need to be the one to do the first ride. So just go ahead and do it. And so thankfully he did. I feel a little bit bad sometimes for owners that send their horses, their babies that they've raised up and done a real good job for, and they don't get to be here for the first ride. And it was really cool because she came to me for support one time. It wasn't in a rude manner, and it was fine, and she was okay. She wasn't tuning him out or anything like that, but it was real cool because I got to be the one to support her and pet her, even though he's supporting her and petting her from above. But and getting down is just as important as getting up. I mean, some people, they don't do their homework and they sneak up the side of them. Well, then good luck getting down. But anyway, so I was thankful he was making sure to check all of that. And even throwing that rope up over her head and around to the other side, it was quite an issue for her for a little bit because she's just so sensitive and she thought that I was asking for something, some sort of motion, but she got real good about it pretty quick. Of course, Jeremy's already riding music. He had his first ride outside the corrals last week, but he's taking him slow still. He's not working him hard. Like I said, they're both just 2-year-olds. He's a little bit older than she is, but obviously they don't need to be doing too much hard work right now. But Emmie took a little bit of the back burner because I'm not out there as often to mess with her and work with her. And of course, I just wanted to let her grow up. I didn't want to be over-handling her like music. Jeremy really didn't want us to be over-handling him, and then we wound up bandaging that leg for 3 stinking months. See, I think I was still holding my breath at this point. But at the same time, I knew she was going to do good. I moved back thinking that it might help her draw her towards me, keep me in the left eye for her. Not that he needed my help, but I was just trying to take care of my baby. She's my baby, even though she's huge. See, a lot of horses that come into training and people have them just to a point, but that's the point in which they stop, and is normally the horse isn't okay switching eyes. There's a real pretty little Bayroan filly here right now, and she was struggling with that a little bit today. He was working through it, and she was doing just fine, but Emmie did pretty good seeing me from above. Like I said, I've done a lot of fence work. I ponied her off of my mare, and so she's pretty. And then, of course, when she was a baby, leaning over her back, petting her, rubbing on her. So she was pretty okay with all that and gentle. He's here just learning to balance him up there. I was so doggone tickled with this. It's the first ride. So proud of her. Of course, now I gotta get my balls out of my throat and get on her myself here pretty soon.
See, this is exactly what she needed. I feel fine with her.
Mm-hmm.
She just needs to get balance and think. You know, she's wanting to fight me to one side of the. See, this is perfect.
Good girl.
So I guess something I forgot to explain was when I said earlier in the video that we both had bred our mares to the same stud to get our babies. Well, my mare Poco that I always ride, that we bred, she was born here the first year we were here on the ranch. She didn't take, and unfortunately she was already 17 years old and a maiden mare. And while it's possible to get it done still, I just felt like it wasn't worth risking her life and us possibly going in debt with vet bills if something had happened. And I would just never forgive myself if I lost that horse. She's really important to me. And also, my good friend that owns the stud, she had another mare that was pregnant by that same stud. So she wound up having this little filly who was Emmie, and she offered her to me to buy, and I hemmed and hawed for several weeks, months maybe, and finally decided to live a little and go for it. And so that's where Emmie came from. So they still have the same sire, but she's just not out of my mare Poco. So anyway, I'm glad to have her regardless.